to try and keep this as brief as possible, so I don't end up wasting too much of your time. But this is going to be a two-part video, basically, on, firstly, things that I'm going to have to change with the channel. I'm being forced to change with the channel with regards to a couple of community guideline violations I've received recently. The second part that I'd recommend everybody watches, because it might end up with the channel burning down, is regarding Patreon. Now, normally I would just do a video for the patrons and put it up on Patreon, but what I'm going to say in that part of the video is not going to please Patreon, I assume. So obviously I can't put it up on their website, because I think they'll probably clap my cheeks over it. So, first part then. Over the past week, I've received multiple community guideline violations, which, now, let's be honest, if I say fuck in a video and I get demonetized, I don't really mind, because we are, at the end of the day, a community-funded channel via means of Patreon and wherever else. So, that's not such a big deal, but I have been getting community guideline violations, which are slightly more impactful. It means that the channel has to do something to change it, otherwise that will stick around. So in this case, it ended up, of all weird things, being a thumbnail violation for Dungeon Master Episode 9, I believe. So it's the episode that went up the day before yesterday. That episode had, in the thumbnail, the event from CK2 where there are people with the plague. As a quick side note here, I did forget to mention this when I did the first take. I did appeal this decision. However, as you can see in the community guideline note up on the screen right now, they've made a note of saying that due to the recent global health crisis related to COVID-19, a number of our normal review processes have been disrupted. Essentially, I feel like an appeal is going to be a waste of time, which is why I didn't emphasize this at the time. This change kind of has to happen now, because there's no one at the office. You know, no one's home right now, so I can't even dispute it if it has been made a mistake. My channel is at the behest of Google robots, and I'd rather not be homeless because of Google robots. Anyway, I said in my appeal that I'm unsure why the content was removed. The thumbnail was a composite of characters featured in the video, and the background of which was a 600 pixel image of hand-drawn characters with what I assume to be some illness taken directly from the video game itself. The game in question is a historical simulator with an accurate representation of many medieval diseases, including the spread of the bubonic plague and events surrounding it. Am I to assume that any content featuring diseases otherwise historical or otherwise, are in violation of community guidelines? This heretofore has not been an issue for the many years I've played this game on the channel. Many thanks, Sam. Whether or not they'll actually reply to that and reinstate the thumbnail remains to be seen. However, again, it is at the behest of robots, so I feel like any sort of explanation is going to go a little bit wide by the wayside, huh? That was basically the picture I used in the thumbnail, along with a picture of a character and a picture of the Dungeon Master. I don't know what YouTube took with umbrage in that thumbnail, given that we've quite literally done a series on tentacles in CK2, but apparently that one in particular set them off. Now, that wouldn't, again, be an issue in itself, except there have been multiple this week. For example, they demonetized episode 4 or something like that of the same Dungeon Master series. They went through the back catalogue and basically wiped out a bunch of old videos which had, again, various thumbnail or monetization related issues, unsuitable for advertisers, whatever else. Some videos got straight up deleted. And it's getting to the stage now where I am gonna have to, how do I phrase this well? I need to be careful about not what I say, but basically how I say it. Because let's be honest, I do swear a lot in videos, like a lot. So maybe cutting down on that a little bit probably wouldn't hurt. And it obviously wouldn't take away anything from the experience. But it turns out I need to be a little bit more careful about what I put in thumbnails. I never even considered that a picture of some people with the plague would be an issue. Bear in mind, it's a hand-drawn image. It doesn't look realistic. It's taken from an event in-game. It's about 600 pixels big as well. So it's pretty ludicrous, but at the end of the day, it's YouTube's platform. And if I keep getting community guideline violations and I miss out on thumbnails and tags and videos being monetized and not promoted, then the channel is just going to crash and burn. Same way any channel that repeatedly breaks community guidelines would. So I am going to be a little bit more careful on that front, but probably not so much that you guys will notice, but enough, hopefully, that YouTube will notice, because I think we're probably only just going over the line. You know, Mr. Streamer, as far as I recall, has not said anything racist or offensive or damaging or attacking anyone. I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy on YouTube. I just say naughty words, which apparently is still too much. So we will be very careful going forward about that. Not very careful, but again, I think we're just slightly over the line, so I'll just bring it back like 5% or so, and see if that's enough where us and YouTube can become agreeable. I'd love to talk to someone to YouTube about it, but obviously that would be like pissing in the wind, so I'm not going to bother with that one. Second one is, the second part of the video is Patreon. Now again, this is mainly just for patrons, but if you are just someone interested, please keep watching, especially because it might end up making the channel die. Patreon have always been a platform mired in controversy. Now, I don't keep up with internet politics, I don't keep up with internet drama because it doesn't interest me, to be completely frank with you. I just don't care what people on YouTube have with regards to opinions. So, they have had a lot of issues. I don't keep up with it, but I do feel like it is my duty to keep up with it as someone who pays their rent from Patreon. It is still relevant to me as an individual. They've been getting into a load of legal issues. Again, I don't know the story around it. I don't care to know the story around it. It's irrelevant to me. The platform, however, obviously is. Now, outside of that, where they are apparently in some legal issues right now, there are things going down there. It's looking to be a fairly unstable time for them. They have implemented some things recently that I've been very vocally critical of. For example, they recently added sales tax to all pledges. So for someone like me who doesn't provide a physical anything, doesn't even particularly provide a virtual anything to patrons. You know, I imagine a lot of people are the same as regular viewers. They just watch the videos on the main channel, probably don't read the Patreon posts I put up, and those are just basically channel reviews anyway, like analytics for how well we did this month, how many videos came out, that sort of thing. Some behind-the-scenes previews that, again, aren't exactly Patreon exclusive. They end up going up a week to the public anyway, so it's not as if they get anything besides a thank you at the end of videos. That apparently is enough to now warrant them putting sales tax on. What that means is if there are patrons in the United Kingdom, where our VAT is something like 17.5% VAT, if you live in a country that charges 20%, certain different states in the US obviously charge different state tax, that will be applied to your pledge, which means the patrons now spend more money on supporting the channel. A chunk of it now goes to the government, a chunk of it goes to Patreon, a chunk of it goes to PayPal, the rest is lost in conversion fees. It's getting to the stage now where on, like, every dollar that someone might pledge to the channel, I might see... I wouldn't even like to guess. And also, I probably shouldn't guess, because it would get me in trouble. But suffice to say, it's gotten pretty hefty. Now, I have been looking into alternate platforms to Patreon, one of which is called Coffee. Now, after doing a little bit of research, it looks as if they haven't done anything to upset anybody, which is good for me, because I'm community funded, so obviously the more people that are not upset at the platform, the better. More importantly, Coffee have no fees, which was mind-blowing when I realized that. They don't charge someone fees to support the channel. They don't charge somebody, they don't charge me fees, they don't charge sales tax, they don't have anything like that. It's just quite simply a handshake. They are there to facilitate the handshake. Someone wants to support a channel, you provide them the means of doing so, and then that's it. PayPal deal with the rest. And PayPal, I'd like to point out, deal with everything on Patreon as well. It's PayPal doing 99% of the work. They handle the money, they handle the transactions, the currency conversion. Patreon just have a nice page for me. Now, I can understand that Patreon is probably useful for people like artists who want to put their art behind a paywall, for example, or someone who is providing video previews of perhaps something they're doing, somebody who is a professional educating individuals. So say, for example, if I wanted to, out of a complete state of madness, put all of my modding videos up behind a paywall, which I would never do, obviously, I could do that and offer a skill to people. That would make sense. But I don't gate content like that, so Patreon for me is probably a bit unnecessary. Now that I know that there are alternate platforms to Patreon, many alternate platforms to Patreon that don't take a huge chunk of what people are offering to the channel, how can I not switch platform? And this is not out of greed. I need to point that out as well. This is absolutely not out of greed, because I am not... I don't consider myself a particularly stupid person, despite the comments on the air gaps in RimWorld. I'm well aware that by transferring platforms like this, I am going to lose a pretty significant amount of backers, because people can't be bothered. I probably wouldn't be bothered if I was only supporting one person on Patreon to transfer my pledge over. As a result, I think we're probably going to lose a lot. The channel's probably going to struggle for a little while, but I'm not going to change video output or anything. It just means I'll be licking mold off my windowsill for sustenance rather than eating a nice warm meal fresh out of the microwave. Suffice to say, there are going to be some channel changes. That's all I want to talk about. Now, the Patreon thing is not final. I've not determined that whether or not I'm going to change over the platform. I still need to do a lot more research into it. And, of course, I'm very thankful to Patreon for... and mainly the patrons, of course, but I guess the platform Patreon as well for providing something for the channel to go. But now that I'm aware of the business acumen going on at Patreon, I feel like it is my duty to perhaps step away. Regardless, I'll have more of a specialized update. And again, I'd love to post this just to the patrons, but again, if I feel I put this video up on Patreon, they're probably not going to be too happy about that. So this will be going up on the main channel because it is the thing keeping the channel going. If you don't like that... You're getting free content out of it because of the generosity of other people. Maybe you should fucking live with it. And that's all. That's all I wanted to talk about. So I'm going to be a good boy on YouTube. I'm not. I'm just going to be a good boy to the extent that they're not angry at me. That's it. I think that's all I want to say. Good. Goodbye.
Hello, Roll1d2 Games, you big stinky, it's me. YouTube with all the money. Did you say fuck or bugger in a video recently? That means I have to take all your gold away.
Ha, Mr. YouTube. That does not bother me at all. I do not even care if you take away my pennies, YouTube.
What? Nani? How could this be that you do not care about us taking your money away?
There is someone far worse than you, you villain. A bigger villain. Hang on.
Bwah. Bwah.
I can't include that, surely. Fuck.